This video is brought to you by BTI Institute, a New Jersey leader in certification-based management training.
What we have here, and my name is Bob Phillips, and this is part of the Agile Discussion Group series that we started, Nitin and I started early this year in January, and it seems to be very successful. We've opened up the registration to 60 people, and right now I'm seeing there's 17 of us online. A lot of times people's life gets in the way, so they're not always able to attend, but there just seems to always be a lot of interest. And so this recording will be available. And today we're going to talk about Scrum values and how you can actually use the values to generate discussions, like if you have multiple teams working on the same thing, or even among the team itself. And I'm going to show you a few things that I did. And I want to keep this very informal. So if you have a question, please just say, hey, Bob, what do you think? And we can talk about it. And we're going to time box this. So we're done at 7. And then from 7 to 7:15, I will stay online if there's anybody that wants to have any further discussions. But we do plan on completing the whole deck by 7 o'clock. All right. So when you work with Agile teams, you should always do a power start. And so this power start is going to be you're going to come out of this with two things: is what are Scrum values, and how you can actually use the Scrum values to help teams identify cross-team issues. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I was working with a Scrum Master in Pune, and I had a team in New Jersey, and we kept on banging our heads for 6 months. And then the two of us decided to do this. And after we did it, it's like overnight things turned around, and we kept on saying, why didn't we do this sooner? But anyway, hopefully you guys won't wait as long as I did. So I'm just going to do a little bit of background. I'm not sure if you were able to attend the session that Nitin and I did last week. Agile is a journey, and it's really something that you can't tell your team members you're going to be Agile now. People have to want it, and they have to want to embrace it. And people go at their own pace. So yes, they can work on an Agile team, but you'll notice that different team members will look at Agile differently. Like I'll have an example where today during our daily Scrum, one of the development team members told one of the other developers, like, hey, you're only supposed to have one item as work in progress. As we do like a Kanban board and all that. So basically that person is really getting the whole idea of agility, while the other person is kind of catching on. This other person likes to like grab a lot of things and have like multiple things going on, and the team is actually helping to tame that. So real quickly, this is not about Agile values, but if you do come to the May Symposium, there will be a pretty cardboard handout that you guys can take if you come visit the Agile LCI booth. And pretty much, Nitin and I talked about this last week, where there's 4 Agile values, and a lot of teams really don't understand them. So my recommendation is to always work with your team on the values and then the principles. And again, for the purpose of timing, I'm not going to go through these, but they're in this deck so that they're available, and it'll be available for download. And the next slide is the principles. And basically this will also be available at the LCI table as a nice cardboard thing that you could put up by your desk. And these are things that you should go, hopefully you made the presentation that Nitin and I did, but this is like the base of agility, the values and the principles. Now, putting on top of that, we have Scrum, and that's what today's session is all about. So this chart is available from scrum.org, and I put a link to it on the bottom of the presentation. And actually, it's a PDF file that prints up to a pretty nice size poster if you ever want to use it. And what this talks about is there's 5 values to Scrum. And all these values make sense. And what I've seen in my organization is the executives are usually sending the notes about how they want people to have commitment and courage and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, why don't they just say, I want a Scrum team? But unfortunately, people don't quite look at it the way I do, because I live and breathe this stuff. So there's 5 values here. And what I'm going to do is we're going to go into details about each one of them. We're going to talk about courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. And these values are really, it really helps the team work better together if you keep on reminding the team as far as the values and see where you're standing. So the first value is courage. And basically, it's having the team so that they're courageous enough to be able to volunteer for something they might not be familiar with, help somebody that they might not be sure how to help. It's really just being courageous and not fearing, you know, taking chances and taking risks. Of course, the risks have to be contained, but it's not being safe. That's being courageous. So if you look at from the Scrum Alliance, they say, because we work as a team, we feel supported and have more resources at our disposal. This gives us the courage to undertake greater challenges. So that's pretty much what courage means. And what you do is you talk about courage with your team. And so I'm not going to do any online polling or online discussions, but there's two questions to think about here. So is courage either A or B? And you know, you don't have to actually answer out loud. It's even after the decision's been made, continuing to push back, or is courage being transparent but willing to change, even if it means accepting that you're wrong or that your opinion is not the direction the team is going. So when I do this with my team, I'll actually get them to answer the question, but doing it remotely, I'm going to give you the answer. It's basically being courageous is being transparent and accepting that, yeah, you could be wrong. You know, you don't always get it right. So I just want to do a check. Is this helpful for everybody? Am I going at the right pace? Are we good? No, yes?
Yeah, you're doing good.
Okay, all right, thanks. All right, that's the first, we just did courage. The next value is focus. And this is an interesting one. And, you know, going back to my example where one of my dev team members like picked up 4 or 5 different tasks at the same time. And then there's this folk saying that if you chase 2 rabbits, both will escape. And so the whole idea behind focus is you only focus on a few things at a time. And that whole idea between, you know, with multitasking, you know, some people say multitasking makes you stupid. I don't have the actual where that came from, but that's something that when I met Jeff, that's something that he had mentioned. And so the idea is just do one thing at a time and get it done. And then Lisa Atkins, who actually wrote Coaching Agile Teams, she came out with this quote, and that's actually where I got this image from. It's amazing what happens when people focus, things get done. Busy people are the corporate equivalent of chasing 2 rabbits, and the Scrum-based focus says busy people, that being busy doesn't matter. It's really what did you get done? And that's really what it's all about. It doesn't matter that you're totally busy and running from meeting to meeting, but what actually did you accomplish? What did you get done for the day? So for focus, the choices would be focus on keeping the customer happy or being focused on the sprint and its goal. So if you were to think about that, the team should always be focused on the sprint goal. So the answer would be B, being focused on the sprint goal. So that's the value of focus. The next is commitment. And this is what happens if you follow Scrum the right way. The team is actually making a commitment. The team is volunteering. The team is committing to deliver certain things during the sprint cycle. And that's something that comes from the team. The manager is not telling the team, you're going to deliver this by May 1st. It's all about the team saying, I'm going to do this. And it's a lot more powerful when it happens that way. So basically, the Scrum Alliance says that it's great to have great control over your destiny. And if you feel like you control your own destiny, you're going to be a lot more committed to the project and its success. So basically, for commitment, commitment would be committing to something that you don't understand because you were told by your boss, or committing yourself to the team and the sprint goal. And I think you guys are kind of getting the idea right now that commitment would be, it's to yourself and to the team. So the answer would be B. Okay, respect. Scrum team members respect each other to be capable, independent people. All right, so how many times have you sense that people don't respect each other. And that really drags the whole team down. People have to be willing and open to accept people for what they are, accept them for the skills that they have, and be willing to reach out and help whenever they can. So it's really important that when you're working with a Scrum team that they totally respect each other, because if they don't, that's where you should be focusing your work. And it could end up being that you may have to change your team. If you go through a couple sprints and you're still seeing that they don't respect each other, you may have to start looking at maybe trading people or finding out what's causing it. What's causing this lack of respect? Because this is so important. So the question would be, so respect is thinking you are helping the team by being a hero, or helping people to learn the things that you are good at, and not judging the things that others aren't good at. None of that judging. So as you probably guessed, it's going to be B again. So that's really what respect is. And then finally, openness. Ken Schwaber and Mike Beadle, they basically, Scrum keeps everything about a project visible to everyone. And that's the whole idea behind openness. And you probably heard the word transparency thrown around. It's basically keeping everything visible so everybody knows what's going on. And it also allows people to immediately let people know that they're having problems, rather than having a person struggle for a week or two. With openness, they're actually saying, I'm having a problem with this and I need help that day. So you don't waste a week of a person really struggling and being up against the wall. So for openness, it's really telling everyone everything about all your work, or highlighting when you have challenges and problems that are stopping you from success. So it's definitely B. It's really important that you're willing to say that I do need help, because that's what makes a team powerful. So I just took you through the 5 Scrum values, and I found this very interesting slide on the internet, and this kind of helps tie it all together. Because if you notice, the whole thing I was mentioning, respect, that sits dead center. Pretty much it all starts with respect, where the team has to be able to respect each other. And this particular diagram added visibility and sense of humor. I didn't create this, but it does make sense, but those are not Scrum values. So then outside of respect, you have courage, and then you have commitment. So basically you have a courageous team and a committed team surrounding respect. And then on the outside, you have it being open and being focused. And definitely a sense of humor, because if people aren't having fun, you may find them looking for another job. Work, it shouldn't be like going to a playground, but people should enjoy what they do. So this was an overview of the Scrum values. And now what I'm going to do is share with you how I actually took the Scrum values and tied it into a retrospective with 2 teams. Is there any questions so far?
Bob, Heyman here. Does this also hold true for program or enterprise level, where we have multiple leads driving multiple different initiatives, but we basically happen to be from the same org, and essentially the way we operate, there is commonness, or there is the process is same, but ultimately we drive our respective goals, but we roll up into the same org, for example EPMO. So can this also be applicable? Can we leverage this?
Even if the team is not doing Scrum, if you got people working and living by these values, you'd be a long way to having a very happy and successful team. Right. So I wouldn't say that these are just, like I mentioned when I started, a lot of executives like to throw these words around, where they want people to be committed and open. And what Scrum does, it gives you the framework where you can do that, but there's nothing saying that these values can't be used in other.
Yep. Good insight. Thank you.
All right, so now this is something that I wish I figured out 6 months earlier, while I was experiencing all these problems. So what you do is you do a power start. You would do a power start. And the power start would be a way to introduce what you're going to do with the team. So now that you have some background about what the values are, I'm hoping you will understand, how I actually used it. So this would be the power start. We're saying we want discuss how New Jersey and Pune are working together. The focus is more around the overall sprint, and it's not about New Jersey or Pune, and that, we're going into this trusting each other and being courageous, because, we're going to have to be open and let everybody know what's going on. And also, we also want to say that the environment is safe, that, what people say is not going to be used against them. And it's really going to be focusing on how are we doing with the Scrum values. And now what you need to do is you need to introduce the Scrum values first. Like maybe introduce the Scrum values, start, getting your team talking about it. And what I do is I'll introduce the Scrum values, then the next retrospective, I'll say, okay, how are we doing? Which Scrum value do we do the best? And so we'll go around and people will actually do fist of 5 voting on each Scrum value. And then I'll put them up on the board, and then the team will start getting an idea like, okay, we're doing really good at courage, we're not doing too great on openness. So, and then I say, okay, how can we be more open? So those are the value discussions that you can start having. So within a couple sprints, you do that, and then you take the next step. Now I have a team in New Jersey and I have a team in Pune, and we don't really do joint retrospectives. That's just something we never did. It was like Pune did their own retrospective and we did ours. And so then we took these values and turned it into these questions, and I'll show you what happened. All right, and so what I wanted to do, instead of doing fist of 5 voting, I wanted to spread the number out. And we used actually story point cards where this is following, and I didn't even follow the Fibonacci sequence because I really wanted to push out the averages. And basically everybody in Pune and New Jersey had cards, or they use their phone to do, the estimating. And 1 point would mean we're doing really bad. 8 points would say we're in the middle, and 20 points is fantastic. And so for each one, I was asking each team to vote. And then what the Scrum Master would do, like I was in New Jersey and Mohit was in Pune, he would actually take the average, and then we come up with the average. So what we did then is we said, okay, this is the question. And these questions you definitely can reuse, because a lot of thought went behind, like, how do you ask 2 teams a question to actually get them to actually tell you something, to actually open up. So basically for courage, it was, how courageous do you feel we are as a team in terms of raising impediments or challenges? And then what happened during the voting is we came up right in the middle between 8 and 13 points, which was pretty cool, meaning, we're doing okay. We're not that, we're not super courageous, but we're not afraid. All right, so then while the meeting was going on, I started taking notes. And these are things that I picked up. Sometimes like a lot of stuff might not mean anything to you, because this again was with my team, but I'm just showing you the kind of feedback you can get by using these kind of questions. So basically, that people are saying sometimes emails miss, things get dropped. Like what we had was the people in Pune had higher skills than the people in New Jersey. So a lot of times people in New Jersey depend on people in Pune to actually help with support issues, and we weren't getting responses. And basically they're saying that, because of the time zone differences, nobody's at Pune after 1 o'clock. And then the team also has another suggestion is ensure there's no email. Like as soon as you start the day, check your email. Like when Pune goes home, they'll send an email to New Jersey. New Jersey's supposed to check it as soon as they start the day. And the same thing came with Pune. So now if New Jersey had a problem, we're asking Pune to check it. And the other problem that they identified was that they were sending the email to a distribution group. And you know what happens when you see an email with 5 people or 10 people the 2 spot, you're like, oh, that's great. You know, that's not for me. And so what they talked about was trying to send the email to an individual instead of a distribution group. So these are 2 things that I didn't come up with, the team came up with. And to me, they were pretty cool. Any questions? Oh, okay. You guys are quiet tonight. All right. So basically that was courage. We captured the information and we captured the comments, and then the comments were then consolidated at the end to come up with a, like, what are we going to do? But I'm just sharing with you to give you an idea as far as what kind of feedback you might get. Okay, so again, using the same planning poker for focus, how focused are we on product quality or definition of done and continuous improvement? So this was a really cool question. And these were the responses that I got. New Jersey felt that they couldn't stay focused. They kept feeling like they were being pulled in different directions. You know, you think about the rabbit. You know, if you're trying to chase 2 rabbits, they're both going to get away. Where Pune felt they were able to stay focused. Now, I don't know if it was because of the skills, you know, where Pune was able to, if they got a support question, they were able to answer it immediately, where if New Jersey got it, could end up being like a whole day activity. But this is basically how the team came out. And then these were the kinds of comments we got back. When you leave for the day, don't do any major code deployments. Like a lot of times teams would be breaking the build. And I know you're not supposed to do that, but when you do continuous integration, they're just saying, you know, if you got some major stuff, don't risk it right before you leave, you know. And the next one was nobody seems to be doing any testing, and our changes being conflicting. And when we refactored, we seemed to just comment out the test cases and basically not telling anybody that we took the test case out, because we do a lot of automated testing. And the other thing was we were doing more than 2 code modules per sprint. Like we had different modules where our code resided. So these are things that the team came up with as far as how we could focus better based on that one question. So now we have a way of using the Scrum value to ask a question that gives you this kind of feedback. And this feedback is gold, because these are things that you can actually start working on and addressing. So the next one is commitment. For commitment, how committed are we as a team towards working toward achieving the overall sprint/business goal? And then basically, New Jersey felt they were more committed than Pune. As you could see, Pune came in a little bit, you know, above 8, and New Jersey came in at 13, which is interesting as far as commitment. And then this is the feedback that we got. We were volunteering for too many product backlog items. And we were creating new ones in the middle of the sprint, and that was creating a mess and messing up our commitment. We were not clear about the complexity. And then basically one of the action items came out was when we do our PBR, which is a product backlog refinement meeting, we should focus better. We should focus more on that so that we understand the complexity of the story rather than waiting to pick it up in a sprint and then finding out. We create a lot of technical product backlog items, and basically we kind of skimp on the description and acceptance criteria. And they've made a comment that they're doing better since the focus has been on one area of the code. And then the last thing was trying to use Skype instead of just email to communicate with Pune, because basically email wasn't working. But again, these are the things that came out of just that one question. And this meeting was less than an hour. So in less than 1 hour, we have 2 teams that were working horribly together, and we're getting all this outstanding feedback because it was all centered around the Scrum values. And so the next one's respect. Again, using playing poker. Do you feel respected as being part of the team? And basically we came in kind of right in the middle with around 10 as an average, which I sensed that there was a very low level of respect. I didn't feel that the Pune team respecting New Jersey, only because New Jersey had a lot of, you know, inexperienced programmers. In Pune, you know, they've been working for years, which is very different. Usually it's the other way around. Usually you get the young developers in offshore locations and more senior developers on site, but it just wasn't so on this project. So this was definitely a main problem that the team had. And if you remember that circle, this is dead center. This is respect. This is right in the middle of the core value. Like if the team doesn't respect each other, you're really doomed. So what kind of feedback did we get? Improved communication, ensure team comes across as being in sync outside the team. And this started getting to become a little bit of a heated discussion where somebody in New Jersey was leading a production incident. It must sound like my code's horrible because all I talk about is production incidents. But you know, we did have problems, and the person in New Jersey was taking the lead. Then the product owner reached out to somebody in Pune. You know, after hours, they called the person in, and the person contradicted what the New Jersey guy was doing, and he felt really bad. So we're trying to figure out, how do you not do that? How do you not make somebody else look bad? And it could have been because the product owner was new and the guy in Pune was trying to impress the product owner, saying, "Oh, I know everything," but it just created a very sour taste. And I let the discussion go on a little bit, but then I kind of cut it off and I said, you know, really, we understand what the problem is, and what we have to do is just come out as one voice and not try to contradict each other. And the other thing that they pointed out was I was very good at communicating with my team, but I didn't really communicate that much with the Pune team. And the same thing happened with the Pune Scrum Master. So what they said is any communication we do should be with both teams. And then we talked about the whole idea of cross-pairing, and then using Symphony as a way of communicating as well. So these are things that I didn't write. These are things that the team came up with for respect. And then finally, openness. How open are we as a team to being vulnerable with each other or challenge each other? And so basically, New Jersey came in a little bit weaker than Pune. Pune came in at 13 points. And then comments were nobody responds for help. And another problem we had was the Pune Scrum Master would schedule a meeting. Like everybody in New Jersey's done, you know, after 6 o'clock, the Pune Scrum Master would schedule a meeting for like 7 a.m. the next day at 9 o'clock at night. Now, who's gonna check their email, you know, between 6 between 6 p.m. and the next day? And it was causing problems because these meetings were scheduled and my team was missing it. So we basically came up with a working agreement where you don't have any unannounced meetings before 9 o'clock. So that's pretty much how I use the Scrum values. And I asked one final question: how do we become an awesome team? And the team came back and said, just do what we just said. You know, just start doing the things that we just talked about. And that was pretty much how a retrospective that I did in an hour, in actually less than an hour. And then this was the outcomes. And I'm not gonna, this is in the presentation if you wanna look at it, but this is a summary of what I just shared with you. And so basically we came up with 2 pages of outcomes as far as what the team would do. And these were not outcomes that I created or the Pune Scrum Master created. These were outcomes that were based on my notes. It then went to the team, and the team agreed to these things, not the Scrum Master, all about the team. And then the second page is a little bit more of a thing, but as you can see, we came out of this meeting with these things to do. And what you would then do is in another month or 2, go back and say, how are we doing on these things? And then seeing what we missed and what we need to, it's always about change and it's always about tuning. So that pretty much, and this is something that almost fell on the floor. The very next day, this email came, all right? I took off the names and all that, but this is exactly what we wanted Pune to do. Where basically, you know, one of the things they were complaining about was they would be taking out code and not telling us. And it came the next day. I mean, I couldn't have been more happy because it really worked. And basically Pune actually communicated with changes they made to the code because of the problems they were having. And then our team was able to see it and respond back. And this is what Scrum's all about. And this is how you actually get teams to actually work together, even though they're in two totally separate locations that are thousands of miles apart. And it does work, but you have to keep on reminding people about the values and using them. And I really think those questions are very good. It took quite a bit of time to come up with those questions when the Scrum Master and I worked together on them, but they seem to work really well. And if I'm ever in a situation like that again, I'm not working with this team anymore. They went and moved on to something else. This is something I would do, definitely. I would use this again. So is there any questions? You guys are quiet. You got me scared here. I'm hoping everything's going okay. It's pretty simple stuff. It's basic, but unless you really understand and how to present it, it often gets missed because it's so simple. That's my
Bob,
idea.
I have a question.
Sure.
You mentioned planning poker. Is that software that everybody on the team, Pune and Jersey, has?
There's cards. There's story point cards, and it's called planning poker. And there's story point cards that you can get. And when I do it, I use cards. When Pune did it, there's a phone app that you can actually get that people can actually bring up their phone and then pick one of the numbers from the Fibonacci sequence.
So everybody could see it at the same time, so this way nobody is influenced by someone else's numbers?
Yeah, exactly. What you do is, to do planning poker, you give everybody a deck of cards that are the Fibonacci sequence, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 20, 40, 60. And you basically talk about the requirement, you talk about what you're going to do. And in this case, it was the question. This is the question we're going to ask. Does everybody understand what we're asking? All right, then basically then the Scrum Master would say 1, 2, 3, show. And what that does is everybody at that location shows their card at the same time. And then what then you have is you might get some 3s, you might get some 5s, you might get some 8s, 13s, and then you basically scan the room and look for the average. For this exercise, we didn't have people revote because we just wanted to, what the average of the team was. But if it was a real story that we were estimating, we would take the person that was the lowest, take the person that was the highest, and explain why they voted that way. And then have the team vote again until you get within like 2 Fibonacci sequences. And then basically the team would either agree, like if it's a 5 or an 8. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you, Bob.
And if you ever just reach out to me, if you ever want, help doing this, I could, if you're doing it for the first time, it's a little nerve-wracking the first time you do it, and then the other part of doing estimating is you have to get the team to come up with like a base story, like get everybody to agree like doing this type of functionality would be 3 points. And then the way it works is people would be comparing that 3-point story to the next piece of work, because you're just estimating the effort. You're not estimating hours, you're just estimating how much effort it is. Like an example might be to put it into like if you were an apartment landlord, to change a door lock might be 2 points, to put in a bathroom faucet might be 13. And so basically, just to give you an idea of how the point scales work. And if you're going to do like a complete bathroom renovation, that might be a 40 or 100. It's really, and it's all specific to the team as far as what they do, as far as how the estimates go. Each team will estimate differently. Now, when I had a Pune team and a New Jersey team, we estimated the same, so because we're working on the same project and the same backlog. All right, so that's something you want to make sure. But like if have a team doing my project and then there's another Scrum team doing something totally different, the numbers could be totally different, and that's totally fine. You never compare story point estimates between teams.
Actually, Bob, I have two teams. One team is going.
Hey, this is John C. If you're going to say something, if you can, please turn on your camera so we can see who you are.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'm on the road, actually. Okay. Hey, I'm driving the car too. Actually, I have two teams. One of the team is using the Fibonacci, and the other team is using t-shirt sizing, extra small. The max they go is a large, which is an 8. Nobody goes beyond 8. I mean, that's the largest size.
Okay. I would try, yeah, again, if it works for the team, leave it alone. But I would try to get them to convert the t-shirt sizes into story points. That's ideal. But again, because it's hard, it would be hard to calculate a velocity based on t-shirt sizes. That would be my only reason for wanting to use story points, because the velocity is the average points that the team completes over the last 3 sprints. So it would be hard to estimate what the velocity is based on those sizes. And it sounds like you're doing the conversion already in the background, but
yes,
you might want to just get the team. To me, that's a way to get a team started. You do t-shirt sizes, but then you start saying, okay, instead of t-shirt sizes, instead of small, how about we make that 1? Why don't we use 1 as small? And basically work through it that way so that they get the idea of using the Fibonacci sequence. But if the team's successful and are doing great, my only thought would be it'd be hard to figure out their velocity.
No, actually, we are slowly trying to migrate them. You see, they're comfortable doing right now, so we are slowly trying to translate into numbers.
Okay.
So it takes some time. So team picked the way they wanted to do it. We said, okay, fine, as long as work gets done. Team is comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's really all about. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, Rob, this is Anik. Just a couple of questions. You mentioned that it was difficult for you to come up with the questions and agree with your counterpart in Pune. What do you attribute the difficulty of coming up, with a single definition? And then, very early on in the presentation, you did mention that courage was associated with transparency, and I missed completely the sentence. So if you could maybe repeat, the way you phrased it, that would be cool. I think it was the third or fourth slide. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm jumping into another meeting, so I'll see you guys later. I'll see this video later.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Sure.
All right, bye.
All right. So for courage, you have to. The team member has to feel that if they let everybody know they might not have the answer, it's okay. They don't have to hide the fact that they may not have a skill. They also have to be courageous where they show how they're doing. And what the key is here, being transparent but willing to change, even if that means accepting that you're wrong or that your opinion is not the direction that the team is going. That's being courageous, basically. Being transparent means you're being open, you're letting people know where everything is, you're not sugarcoating it. Like a lot of times on a waterfall project, it'll be green up until 2 weeks before delivery, then all of a sudden it becomes yellow and red. That's because it wasn't really transparent up until then. And in Scrum, during that daily meeting that the team has, you want the team to be courageous and let everybody know what's going on, because basically you're being accountable to the other team members. You're saying, I'm going to do this today, and this is what I'm going to deliver. So the if you don't deliver, it's definitely gonna show up. And that's the whole idea of being courageous, saying, hey, I couldn't deliver it because I got blocked because of this reason or that. So those are things. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think you, by accepting more difficult challenges and stretch goals, you have to come to some honesty about where you are and what you can do, right? The capabilities that you have. So I can see, where transparency and honesty and openness come into play.
Right. And
you're stretching, but the goal of courage is to challenge yourself, right? A challenge the team, right?
It's being willing to stretch yourself, something that you might not be comfortable with taking it on, and also you're right, and also challenging the team. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I know I opened up the door for you guys. Like if you take a look at the presentation after, you're gonna have a totally different look at the Scrum values. But that's why I like this space so much, is because every time you look at it, you're learning something different or doing something different. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, the second question was, or the first question that I asked was, you mentioned that there was difficulty to come up with the questions that you would pose to the two groups, the one in Pune and the one in New Jersey, and the difficulty was with your counterpart. And I was curious if it was due to language barrier or cultural barriers, or if there was like so much acrimonious and a lot of water under the bridge that it was difficult, for the two of you, to come to an agreement.
Number one, the hard, what we were trying to do was hard, because we were trying to take this whole value like focus and turn it into a single question without, going, okay, how, you don't want to say, how are we doing with focus, And so we felt we would get better responses if we actually pointed it more toward what we were doing and, the kinds of things that we were doing within the project. And yes, there was communication problems that I had with this master in Pune, but that's human human nature. He was a PSM2, which is it's a Scrum.org certification, which is like their middle levels Scrum Master certification. And I came in as a CSP because I got all my certifications from the Scrum Alliance. And so sometimes we had very differing opinions on things, and that it was healthy. And what we got out of it were these questions that are really cool. Instead of just asking the team, how are we doing with focus? We say, how focused are we on the product quality or definition of done and continuous improvement? So we're really getting the team to get to to talk about what we want to find out. And you can see the responses that I got in less than an hour, that it worked. It really did work. And
yeah, I like the fact that you integrated, the outcome and the expectations into the questions, because you're right, how committed are we as a team? Everybody can go everywhere, so that's good. It was very, very well designed, I think.
Yeah, this is something that I'm thinking I should probably do a Big Apple Scrum Day presentation or something on, because I don't know if anybody's ever really done this with the Scrum values before. So it's just really interesting how it all came out. And
you got a lot of feedback, really, and positive ones. Have these translated into better velocity, better, Scrum output? Team output?
Yeah, there's a definite correlation, because you saw that email, which and those types of communication continued, and everybody in New Jersey was nervous. Everybody, they'd be telling me, "Hey, Bob, they don't respect us. They think we're dirt. They don't think we're worth their time," and it was an ongoing problem, and nobody wanted to say anything. So then I'm thinking, how do we have a meeting and have the people not end up hating each other, you know, even worse, you know. So that's why we use that's why we surrounded it around the values and made it impersonal. You know, it got a little personal, but we were able to stop that, but it really worked. And what that did is it made the team work better together. And yes, the velocity did go up. Yes, to answer your question.
That's great. Fantastic. Thank you.
Was there any other questions? Because I did have one more slide to show. I know it's busy, but they asked if you're a CSM or a advanced CSM, there's, as of February 4th, they added that you need 20 Scrum education units to maintain your CSM certification, 30 for your advanced one, and 40. And this meeting, you could apply for 1 SEU, which is 1 hour. And if you attended this session, it would be F2. And if you viewed the recording, it would be as an E3. And you need to keep in mind that just like PMI, the Scrum Alliance has the right to reject your submissions. So I recommend that if you're going to be doing it, put it in now, you know, and don't wait until your certification is about to expire and enter them all at the same time. I think it also looks better when you do it that way. I think they can see that, you know, you've been kind of doing it all throughout the 2-year period and not waiting to the very end to get all your training in. And there's on the bottom of the page, there's a link to the Scrum Alliance website that has the details about this. But somebody did ask that question a few times, a month or so ago.
So you can climb to both organizations, right? You know, I'm a PMP as well as a CSM, so I can claim the same class to both organizations, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah. And the one is PDU and the other one is SEU. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. This is John C. I think just to clarify, from the PMI perspective, you can definitely claim 1 PDU because we have recorded it within PMI's education catalog that this is eligible for 1 PDU. As far as SEU, because they're a different organization, we believe you should be able to get the 1 SEU, but we can't guarantee that.
Yeah, to get a guaranteed SEU from the Scrum Alliance, you have to actually give them, you have to submit a fee, give them the training materials. I mean, there's this whole huge thing of paperwork, and it's a very, very high overhead, and we're only talking 1 SEU, so it just wouldn't be feasible.
Yeah, I can also add to that when you submit an SEU, unlike PMI, where you can say that you attended this program and it'll either give you a PDU or not. For SEU, they actually have a box there when you submit it to say, what did you learn from it?
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
So you can't just play it in the background and try to game the system. You actually have to pay attention.
Right.
Right.
Oh, makes sense. Well, that's easy, I think. But it's easy, but it's time consuming. So that's, Rob, I think the idea is really to take to submit them as we go along.
Yes.
Right. I think
that's highly recommended.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? And so then I'm going to turn over to John for some announcements.
Yeah, hi. I just want to kind of highlight some other things that are going on at PMI New Jersey, and I will say this rather quickly. We do have our May Symposium along with a Sunday seminar coming up on May 5th, May 6th. If you have not registered for it yet, but you want to attend, you can still attend. You just can't register online. You'll have to register as a walk-in. Also, our Leading Safe course, which is based on the Scaled Agile framework, that class is coming up on May 11th and May 18th. So unlike other organizations that do it on 2 consecutive days, we do it 2 consecutive Saturdays. That registration for that is going to end this Saturday, and we have only 2 seats left. So if you are interested in taking that course, register very soon before those 2 seats are gone and registration closes. We do have our next Agile discussion group coming up on Wednesday, May 29th. So look for an email sometime early in June to register for that. If you are not on the Agile LCI mail group, I encourage you to join that mail group, since folks on that group, which I believe many of you are, they get earlier notice than everybody else, so that you're able to take all the seats before we fill up all the slots. Again, if you know someone who is interested in taking the PMP certification exam and they need a prep course, we have one coming on June 15th, June 22nd, and June 29th, 3 consecutive Saturdays. Register for that too. And we started something new last year, which I've mentioned to you before, that we actually have in our mentor-mentee program, we have a mentor specific whose specific concentration is in mentoring those who have agile project management questions or needs. So if you're interested in applying for that, I encourage you to sign up as a mentee. And of course, if you are a veteran agile practitioner and you want to give back to the profession by mentoring somebody else, please sign up as a mentor too. And when you do, you can say, I want to mentor people specifically who have needs in agile project management. So a couple of things there. I hope that you can join these programs that are coming up. Like Bob said before, if you show up at the symposium, you'll get one of those nice colorful pictures about the agile values and principles. That's it for me. Thanks a lot. Oh, and one last thing I do want to mention. As soon as this meeting ends, an email will go out to all of you to fill out a feedback form. We do look at your feedback. We do our own little retrospective, so to speak, on this after each of these meetings. We're always looking to improve the program and to look for new ideas. So please, when you get that, to complete that feedback form, it'll take you less than 2 minutes to do, and it'll be very helpful to us. That's it. Bob, back to you.
Okay. All right. If there's no further questions, we'll conclude the Scrum values discussion and then open it up to any other general Agile questions that you might have, or everybody can just go home. It's up to you guys.
If we can't attend, the May 5th and 6th because of conflicting commitments, can we buy that little cheat sheet from you, Rob?
Those diagrams.
Those diagrams.
Do you ever come to monthly meetings?
Of course I do. I met you,
Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay. I will bring some. I'm going to be going to the Global Scrum Gathering in Austin, so I'm going to miss the Morristown meeting. But I think Nitin's going to be there. And
well, ask him then.
I'll try to make sure he gets some copies that he can have to give to you.
Okay, that's great.
Don't tell anybody, because we want people to come to the May symposium.
I wanted to come. I really did, but I won't be able to be in 2 places at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense. But if you miss Nitin in May, I'll have him with me in June too.
Okay, that's fine. We'll be in touch.
Okay.
We're connected.
Bob, this is Lori Stark. A quick question for you is, how do you join the Agile discussion group?
Can you help with that one, John?
Yeah, there's a mail group, and gosh, I don't have the link right now with me, unfortunately, but you know what, Lori, why don't you reach out to me, go to the PMI New Jersey website and look for my email address there on the board page, and I will send you the link to that. And actually, you know what? I'll tell you what. I won't send out the feedback immediately after. I'll include the link for the sign up for that group in the email.
Is it on the profile also?
Hey, Sunil, if you can, yep. Can you turn on your camera when you talk? We'd like to see your nice face. No need to be embarrassed. I'm wearing a T-shirt.
The background is not that nice. That's why I'm not turning on. I know.
Anyway, what was your question, Sunil?
I was saying that is that also on the profile when I log into my account, and can I log in? Sorry.
Yeah, there should be. There's a profile that you can log into on the website
Yeah,
with your
so
PMI New
there are
Jersey
email
ID.
preferences on the profile. So is that there too?
Yeah, it's there. Exactly.
Okay.
And I'll include that link on the feedback when I send out the email out.
Thank you, John.
Much
Yeah, no problem.
appreciated. Thank you, John, and thank you, Bob. I was very impressed with your talk at the last PMP meeting and decided to join in today.
Oh,
and it's
great.
been really a wonderful experience. So thank you very much for sharing.
Thanks for that feedback. And you know, both Nitin and I are, you know, we're part of the community here. If you want to join our LCI, you could do that. And you know, we do presentations. I think there's going to be a meet and greet in Morristown before the main chapter meeting at 5:30. So it's all about, you know, getting people together and talking about what they're doing, and that's how you learn. You learn by talking to other people and just seeing what they do.
Hi, Bob. Kathy Wyatt. Total novice and new to Agile and Scrum. So my question is, trying to tackle both, what would be a better order? Like to learn more about Agile, then that fits into Scrum, or, you know, some advice on that, if you could.
I would get the Scrum guide. You can download that. Basically, it's a very short read, and it, you know, when you get it, it's like I don't know the exact pages. It's like 12 or 15 pages, and it's like, oh, this is nice. But the thing is, it doesn't really tell you how to do it.
Right.
I did a Scrum overview. Nitin and I did a Scrum overview at the first or second discussion group, and you could actually sit through that link, that web conference, where basically I take people through the Scrum, how Scrum is. So read the guide first, then sit through that training session. And there's also a lot of other online training, but Scrum is probably the most used.
Okay.
And it's more of trying to understand what Scrum is, and the values and principles is what it's all built on top of. But it takes a lot more training and understanding in order to start getting teams to actually start living by them. But you need to get an understanding of the framework.
Right.
And if you, at the presentation, you know, we talked about the whole concept between doing and being. It's basically, when people get started, they're doing it. They're just going through the motions. They're doing their backlog grooming. They're doing their daily Scrum. They're doing release planning. And that's actually just doing it. And then once you're doing it, then basically, then you start really looking at the principles and the values. And as far as, you know, like that helps you understand why you're actually doing it. And it really starts getting people thinking about it, because those 12 principles, I'll do a whole retrospective just on the principles. Like I'll go, I actually have these cards, and I'm going to have them at the May Symposium as well, where each principle is on a card, and I'll hand them out. I'll hand the deck of cards out to my team, and I'll say, which principle are you doing the best at? And then they'll answer, and then I'll say, which principle could we do better? And it gets the team to actually looking at the principles and start thinking about them. And then I'll turn it around. Then I'll say, as a team, which principle are we doing the best? And then which could we be doing better? And then I'll keep the score like on a whiteboard. And it's really interesting, the kind of thing that you end up showing, that, you know, people individually, they're strong in this area, but as a team, we're strong in these principles. And it really, and I do have a screen. I did take a picture of that, and I could share that at a future presentation. That's just a way where you're using the principles and the values to get teams thinking and talking about it. But I would, the other thing is that that book that Jeff Sutherland wrote, doing twice the work in half the time, it's that red book.
Yep.
That book is a gold mine of information. It really is. I actually have the audio book, and I've listened to the audio book 3 times, and I've heard different things each time I've listened to it. I have a 1-hour commute, so nothing better to do in the car. But it's really interesting. And the cool thing is Jeff's son, JJ, does the narrating. So it was fun for me because I heard his voice in Washington, and then I got to I hear them in my car. But that's a good book to really start with. It really gives you a lot of the background and a lot of the why are you doing it.
Okay.
But the first thing I would do is get the Scrum Guide. And then you're going to read it and you go, this is nothing. But then when you try to do it, you're like, holy smokes. And that's what makes this whole space fun.
Okay. Yeah. Because your talk was so interesting at the PMI meeting last time, and then this, and I've wanted to learn more about it, not sure what direction to go first. So this really helps. Thank you very much.
Sure. And just reach